Hello, today I'm going to talk to you about frequently asked questions about dividends. So, dividends are kind of something that a lot of people don't have a great grasp on or understanding of. And it's because you're not taught any of this stuff in school, just like many of the things that I talked to you about. But what are dividends exactly? They are actually the profits that are paid out to the owners of companies. And if you own shares, if you own stocks, if you own mutual funds that own shares or stocks inside of them, you are a partial owner of those companies. And so you're entitled to any profits or distributions that they make in the form of dividends. And so that's important to be aware of. Usually dividends are associated with more mature companies that are not necessarily growing as rapidly as some of the newer companies coming in. And the reason for that is because a lot of young companies or new up and coming companies, they're pouring all their money into research and development. And a lot of times they're not even profitable. And there's been a big story on WeWorks, how they're kind of constantly in the negative. But that's just how a lot of companies start out these days. They start out investing heavily into their platform, whatever it is that they're trying to develop. And so they don't look profitable for quite a while. And the same case was for Amazon and Netflix and things like that. But eventually they do move over to that profitable side. And once they become more mature and they have to spend a lot less on the research and development and they have a lot more cash flow going on, then that's when they start issuing these dividends. So you'll see those a lot more from more traditional, older, more established companies that have revenue and profits for multiple years. So another frequently asked question about dividends specifically is how are they taxed? So outside of retirement accounts, if you're receiving dividend payments, it's going to be treated as ordinary income. So basically, it's just included with your normal income that you receive from your paycheck. Social Security, Medicare doesn't typically apply to that, so you don't have to worry about those things. But the federal tax rates and state tax rates are going to impact the taxable situation with those ordinary income with those dividend payments. So inside of a retirement account, so this is another kind of common misconception. People are freaked out about the dividend payments they're receiving in retirement accounts. You don't have to worry about them. You don't have to pay any taxes on them while everything stays within the retirement accounts. It's not until you retire someday and start to pull those funds out where they will be taxed. So then again, it will be at ordinary income at that time. So here's another question too. So should I have them sent to my checking account to use? So if they're in a retirement account, you probably are not going to want to do that, but it does depend too. So if you're younger and you're receiving dividends, this is something I get a lot from some of my younger clients. It's like, oh, that's cool that they kicks out dividends. Can I just have that sent to me? Like, yes, you can, but you probably don't want to. And the reason for that is because you want the cool thing called compound interest to actually be able to work for you. So as those dividends are kicking out, if you keep it within your account and have it reinvested, that allows that now to also grow and kick out dividends. So these things compound over time, and the larger the balances get and the more time that you have on your side, these things can be pretty ridiculous into feeding into itself and kind of building up your nest egg for retirement. So usually you don't want to have those dividends kicked out to you, and you don't want to use them if you don't need them. If you are in retirement though, it is sometimes something to explore because you can easily start to generate that income for retirement because obviously you're not working any longer. And so what you do is have those dividends come to you, and then that may alleviate the need to start selling assets if those dividend payments are large enough to kind of support your lifestyle. And the very last question is, should you prioritize putting dividend stocks inside your portfolio, inside your accounts? And that's completely up to you. There's definitely pros and cons to it. I don't think you have to focus 100% like, oh, every company I own, every investment I own has to kick out dividends because as I mentioned when I was describing what dividends are, you do want some young up and coming companies because those have the opportunity to grow a little bit faster. And sure, they may not kick out dividends as frequently or at all, but those things kind of balance each other out depending on what's going on. If there's unique things going on in the world, the dividend paying companies tend to be a little bit more resilient sometimes during recessions because as the dividend payments might go down in size as far as what you were expecting before the recession hit, but typically they keep them coming as long as they're still making profits. And so what happens is then you're buying those shares at lower amounts because maybe the share prices have fallen. And so there's some benefits you have in those dividend paying stocks during a recession, and the companies are more established, so they're less likely to go bankrupt or have serious issues occur like a young up and coming company. If they hit rough times as they're trying to grow, as they're trying to establish themselves, those companies may not stick around as well. And so those are the pros and cons just in general. Hopefully this is helpful. If you have any additional questions about dividend stocks, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to help or record another video to kind of dive in deeper.